Hi guys, I'm Ryan Houston and welcome to my fly tying channel. Your video is about to start shortly. Please take this opportunity to hit the like button down below, leave some comments, tell your friends. Interaction, likes, subscriptions help my channel to grow and help me to keep producing content for yourselves. If you're new to my channel, check out the other videos that I've got. There are over 500 videos at this stage, so there should be something there for everybody. Again, video is about to start. Hit that like button down below. Hi guys, so tonight we're going to tie like a pike fly, but it's a roach pattern with an attachment for a wiggle tail, or in this case a dragon tail. So I have a size 6/0 Sakuma Manta Extra here, but use whatever hook comes to mind. I'm going to use the gel spun here because we're going to attach a post and it has to be strong. So I'm going to start my thread and then I'm going to coat the shank in a little bit of super glue and wrap into that, and that'll help it just to bind to the shank. Now you see it's sort of throwing it up into little blebs, so when I wrap back up it again, it's getting another adhered coat of thread, and down and forward and down. So big wide turns. We're looking to get like a rough solid attachment here. So we're going to put on a post. So for this I've made a post out of the knit and all type wire. I've put one of these little fast attach clips here at this end of it. It's crimped, and then I put a bit of shrink tubing over it, and I have a couple of beads on it just for the crack of it. So we're going to set that up and slide it up further than where we want it to sit, because I've put a little bend on it here, a little sort of hook as such. So I'm going to bind this bit down, and then when I have a good few turns here just as a solid base, then I'm going to try and slide this down so that the little loop that I've made comes over the top of those wraps. Then we'll fold it down in flat and wrap over it. And that should stop this thing from pulling out. So you can make it out. Do you see this? Now the length of that is up to yourself. Depends how big of a fly you want to tie. In this case we probably have 10 or 12 centimeters out here. And then we're going to tie the fly back. So there's it's a shorter version of a fly because we're counting on the tail being on the end of it. So we're going to have our materials just come to just probably beyond our fast attach here. So we're going to glue this construct in place. And wrap over it several times just to secure the whole thing down. And then I'm going to spend a little bit extra down at the bottom here. So given that this is a proper must-add fast attach at the back here, you could probably add a stinger to the back of it, in which case you'd want to have a fairly good solid attachment here in case you want to put a hook on the back of it. So all in all, we probably are a little bit long in the shank for what I want to tie here, so we're just going to use up a little bit of the shank by just dubbing it with a silver dubbing. I'm going to put a little bit of super glue on that, flip it upside down, and then I'm just going to wrap that into that. And as I say, simply we just want to travel half an inch or so up the shank so that we use a bit of the space up. So next is our white bucktail, and we're going to use 2 bunches of this, 2 bunches of flash material. to create a sort of a loose umbrella type structure to this fly. So take our bunch and allow it to splay around the shank here. This is with the tips pointing forward. Tie across that and pull down into it. And I'm going to super glue a couple of inches of my thread and wrap into that tie-in point. And then use our big straw and just fold all of this back on itself. And take our tie-in thread in front of it. So this is just to sort of support our tinsel and give us a bit of volume to the fly. So firstly, tinsel wise, I've made a bunch here. Now I have silver and I have a little bit of rainbow in it, and I have a couple of pearls and a silver holographic in it. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of pull. I don't want to elongate this one too much because as I said, I want it to sort of come back to the fast edge clip here. Maybe a little bit beyond it, no more than maybe an inch or so beyond it if we can help it. So allow that to splay around, loose loop, and then tighten into it. Let's just make sure the tinsel sort of splays around the whole shank. Glue, same again, glue on an inch or two of our thread. You'll probably catch a couple of bits of tinsel as you do this, but don't be worried about that. Part that, and again use our big straw just to fold it all back. Take the tie-in thread in front of it. So as you can see, the bucktail's supporting that, throwing it out and giving us the volume of the fly without a pile of materials in it. So we'll go back to our white bucktail, take another bunch. Lay that on just in front of it. Now if you want to be very neat, you could trim these off, but I like to leave them there to give that bit more support, display it. Again, glue the thread, wrap into it, and fold it all back. Wrap back into that just to fold it out. And now I'm going to use a bit of this is a Lure Flash Mobile in like a silver. I'll take a bunch of that. I'm going to tie it across its middle roughly. Fold it back. Tie that back up against our bucktail. Little blob glue. Okay, so next we're going to put on a bit of like a Nayat, but if you don't have that, don't worry, use something synthetic instead. And I'm using one that's kind of like a half white, half grey. But as I said, just use grey synthetic fibre or whatever you have. Get rid of the very short under fur out of it. Lay that on. Allow it to splay around. When it's evenly distributed around, then I'm going to put on a little bit of super glue that I just want it to wick into the both the forward butts of this and the rear butts of it, and then just give the straw a bit of a twist as it goes, just to fold that back. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this Mirage crinkle. Don't need too much of it, maybe 4 or 5 strands. And then I'm going to double it over and cut it. Misalign the two halves of it by about an inch. And then I'm going to lay that on halfway along its length on my side, tie it in, and then take it across to the other side and tie it in. So therefore I'll have it running down the sides of it, and it gives a sort of a like a pearly scale type effect. So time for the head portion. So first we're going to put in the suggestion of fins. So for this I'm going to use a red craft fur. Take a bunch of that. Hold it sort of halfway along its length and get rid of the very short rubbish out of it. And then take the bunch and split it in two, and we're going to have one on one side and the other half on the other side. So I'm just going to set that up against the side here with maybe a centimetre pointing back, tie it in so it's pointing forward. Same on the other side, hold it in place, tie across it, and then fold the two sides of it back and tie over their base here, and therefore we have these two sort of fin-like projections sticking out. A little bit of glue just to hold the fold in that. And then to finish the head, we're going to have like a two-tone head, so we're going to use white craft fur underneath and grey craft fur on top. So I'm going to take a bunch of that. Same thing again, hold it halfway along its length and get out the very sort of base fluff out of that. Flip it round and tie it in underneath. And then for the top of the head I'm going to use this sort of dark grey craft fur. So same thing again, take a bunch, hold it halfway, pick out the shortest rubbishy bits, compress the bunch, hold it in place and directly on top of the white bunch and tie down. So what I want here when I look at it is that it's 50-50, so it is splayed around the shank on both ways, so the top of it, it'll be coming down to 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock if you looked at it on a clock face, and the same with the white coming up to meet it. So once we have that, I'll then put in a couple of hitches. You don't have to cut it tight so that they don't escape as such. And then I'm going to get into our tie-ins here and quickly get sort of like a circle of glue put in there, and then take my big straw and flip that back and pinch it tight. So that is the basics, or the basis of the fly tied. So what I'll do now that I have that in place is I'll just take the super glue and just set the head. You can see that sort of smoke coming off it as it sets. And all it needs now is its eyes to finish it. So we'll set that aside because it take a while for the super glue to completely set, so that there's no sort of fumes coming out of it to interfere with the epoxy or whatever glue you choose. So as I said, the fly could be fished as it's a little bit shorter than maybe I'd probably had another inch or two on it as taper, but this is going to have a wiggle attachment put on it. So take one as usual in the Blue Peter style. We have one tied previously, so we'll set that down in. And what's going to happen here is that we have, this is a Dragontail, we use a wiggle tail, whatever, and the loops then that we have here at the back, we can just flick that together and we will have our Dragontail type roach pattern. Okay, so we are going to put on the eyes now. Put that in there. I'm going to use red 3D eyes for this, and as usual I'm going to put it on with 2-part 5-minute epoxy. I'll put that out on my pad and take a cocktail stick to mix it. I am going to mix in some silver glitter into the epoxy here. Mix it together on my little pad with the cocktail stick. And then take it on our cocktail stick. I'll put on a blob of it on this side where the eye is going to sit. Same on the other side. That's going to be like a bed of epoxy, and then I'm sort of just rotating the fly so that I then get a joining of the two to create this sort of head. And then we take our eyes and just set them on and slide them back into that. Same on this side, just stick the back edge of the eye into it. When I said I want a little lip just to catch it, to give it added security. Now, it takes a little bit of practice, but after a while you should get fairly decent looking heads from this. And then that needs to rotate until it dries, and that is what we will end up with, is our dragon-tailed, or if you want to use a wiggle-tailed roach pattern. So I'm going to set that over on the fly dryer. hopefully you like what you've seen tonight. If you do, give us a like, subscribe, tell your friends, check out the other videos on the channel, and until next time, tight lines. And thanks for watching.